Hello, this is Jess, and this is chat session number 127, March 7th, 2018, Wednesday morning, about 7:30 a.m., and got off work around 2:45. Been up for a while, and sit at the house just tossing all kinds of ideas around, and I've come up with a few, and I'll be sharing those sometime down the road. But I would like to try something different, maybe a challenge to people. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I decided I was going to start with the letter A, and I was going to name all the bands that I could get off the top of my head without looking them up, trying to get all the ones with A by looking them up. Bands that I know that are in my head. And I came up with quite a few. I'm going to read those off now. ABBA, Aerosmith, Axe, Angel, Argent, Anthrax, Air Supply, AC/DC, Arctic Monkeys, Adele, Apocrypha, Art of Noise, Art Garfunkel, Alanis Morissette, Accept, Asleep at the Wheel, Autograph, Andy Griffith, and Andre Segovia, Anderson, Buford, Wakeman Howe, Aretha Franklin, Amorphous, and Adam Ant. And I just thought of one more, which I'm going to put on here, the Allman Brothers. Okay, so that's my list of bands in the letter A. The challenge, I guess, would be to get other people to get in the comment section and add the bands that they have that I don't have listed, or to just try to list all the names that they can without looking them up. Try to be honest about it. Just on the top of your head, which bands do you know off the top of your head that start with the letter A? That's the challenge. So now on to other stuff. On to other things. There's still all this turmoil and division in the land of the circus, our government, and there really is no cure. You can put a band-aid on stuff until we actually change as individuals fundamentally and get back to caring about each other and having real communication off the cell phones, that kind of thing. Nothing will be accomplished, really. There's a lot of blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. But there's not enough, because there's so many things to pick, that we need fixing. And maybe that's part of the trick, is that there's so many problems that everyone's trying to do their one thing they believe in, and nothing gets done because it's not enough of anybody to do anything about the problems that everyone has. So we need to, as individuals, step back and say, man, let's solve this problem first. And let's make it an issue so that the administrations of local and state and federal get the hint that this is what people want, is change. Voting and all that stuff, and I'm horribly disappointed in myself for not being a participant in this voting round that just occurred. But I am gonna get all the registrations done for the next one, so that I can be in the cycle and be able to participate correctly, like I should. It's in my opinion, my responsibility as a citizen to participate in that. And it was very neglectful on my part to not do so previously. But I'm going to rectify all that and get that fixed so that I can participate. I think voting is important. I think that it does matter whether or not it's manipulated or tampered with. It still matters that each individual participates. And then you'll know, hey man, this wasn't what everybody voted on, and look at, the wrong person got in, or at least we can all know because we all participated on how we voted. There is a lot of ways to be involved. I just got actively involved in some social media, following my representatives in my district and in my state, all the way up to the president. I'm actually following, trying to assess all that they have to say on their social media, while looking at what the national media is saying. It'll give me a better insight as to, in all fairness, what you can't just rely on one media source. You have to open up your information flow a little bit, and quit narrowing down to left-wing news or right-wing news or middle-of-the-road news. You gotta, as much as it might pain, switch to another news channel for a moment and just see how they present the day's news. It'll enlighten you, if nothing else. It may confuse you, and it may enrage you because you don't know which way to go sometimes by what you're getting from all the different sources, but we're all human beings the same. We have the same brain capacity. Whether we choose to use it is a different story. But I think if we critically analyze all the news information, I'm not saying you got to have all the stuff going on all the time. Get a break, get away from it. Walk away from that crap, so you can have perspective. You can look at all these different stories, and then you can throw it all back out, and you can say, how is it affecting me on where I am right now? I think that people want to say, how they feel right where they are, not what's happening in the federal, not what's happening in the state, but what's happening in the local area. And I think that's where the impact has to come, because the states have rights to implement stuff without federal permission, apparently, because we have all this stuff going on with the things that are against the law federally, but state and locally they're allowed because of the demands of the people were heard. And that's not normal precedent. The federal should override everything and should go along with what the states want, but it should be unified. All 50 states should have a more unified approach to what's legal and what's not, to dissolve a lot of the confusion. I understand, local, the state overrides the local, the federal overrides the state. It's the supreme law of the land. But there are circumstances where people in a certain state want things, and it's not what the federal government wants, and so nothing ever happens, and those people live, and so they've decided to go about this with a referendums in the state level, and now the federal level has to challenge that because it's the will of the people, and it's very difficult. It's a very difficult approach for the federal government to come in and overstep its boundaries, because the people of that area want whatever they have, and yet it's against the law federally. There's a balancing act, because you have representatives from those places where the people are spoken that jeopardize their whole political career on the will of the people, and yet in the federal government they're opposed to whatever it is that's going on in that state. It's a very dangerous, you got to really know how to play ball to get that stuff situated. But the states are pushing, and more states are doing things that at a federal level are illegal. And so the will of the people in each state apparently has a lot of pull when it comes to federal government being able to act. Now, the federal government can come right in and say, hey, you can't do that anymore. It's against the law of the land. But they don't do it because it jeopardizes their base, the Republicans or the Democrats. They don't want that. If they have some people from that area, and all of a sudden the federal government says, "No, we're not listening to the people," those people that are in those office chairs are going to be ousted out by vote come election time. So it's a tough call, but I think that the states should have rights that the federal government can't meddle with. But I think there has to be a line. I mean, you can't allow with children, different things, that some people in some states might want crazy shit, and you just can't have. There has to be some kind of common sense benefit of the whole populace, and so I don't know. That's rough. That's a crazy thing, But the states do seem to have a lot more power by their actions and recent activities concerning federal law, and they're saying, "Screw federal law. We're gonna supersede it. Will of the people." That's a tough situation, and I don't have a cure for it, but I believe in the power of the states. But I do know that the pressure from the government can be on funding, different things, causing states to change against the will of the people without directly the ones being involved, but like by withholding funding, different things. There's tricks that they can pull. But the will of the people then go to the polls, and they take care of business that way too. I do believe in voting. I think you should if you can. It happens where you don't sometimes. I get it. Who wants to vote for a bunch of crooks? I hear the arguments about why the people don't vote. They don't think it matters. And that's one of the prerogatives of this country. But I do think, in my case, it's the right as a citizen. It's my duty to participate in that. And like I said, I'm going to do that in the future. I'm going to get all set up here where I live and get that done. It's a lot of stuff to learn about politics. It's a lot of stuff to learn about manipulation of laws and cutting corners on bills and doing things just so you can look good for the people in your state. But when you reach that level of federal government, it's not just your state. Yeah, you want to represent, you want to try to bring jobs, you want to try to get growth, you want to try to do things good for your state, representing to the federal government. But you got to understand that all the other states do the same thing. We're supposed to throw all this together into the middle, put a mix, and make what's supposedly good for the whole country. I don't think it's being done properly. This is Jess, chat session number 127. Music challenge has been set. Have a great Wednesday. I believe it's Have a great Wednesday morning. Go Seattle.